Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our council meeting for the first one of March. I think it is March 7th, 2023, and I'm going to accept a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Locke to adopt the agenda. All in favor? And those opposed? Thank you. That motion is carried. We'll read the land acknowledgement first. Just bear with me as we work with some technology in both hands tonight. We begin today's public council meeting by respectfully acknowledging the province of Newfoundland and Labrador as the ancestral homelands of many diverse populations of Indigenous peoples, including the Beothuk, who have contributed to 9,000 years of history on the island of Newfoundland. Today, this province is home to diverse populations of Indigenous and other people. We acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit. We honor this beautiful land together as we strive for collective healing and true reconciliation. Council, before you tonight, you see the minutes from February 21st, 2023. Any errors or omissions first, please? Hearing none on motion of Councillor Fry, seconded by Councillor Antle. All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion is carried as well. Thank you. Any business arising, Council? Okay. Next on the agenda is a proclamation as it pertains to Easter Seals Month. And whereas approximately 100,000 people of all ages in our province live with disabilities such as physical, sensory, hang on now, folks. Now, anybody else's mic on? How's that? Can you hear me? Any background? Whereas 100,000 people of all ages in our province live with disabilities such as physical, sensory, cognitive, or other disabilities that present barriers to full participation in society. And whereas Easter Seals Newfoundland and Labrador is a charitable organization with vision for a community where all people with disabilities live full, healthy, and active lives, a mission to engage, inspire, and maximize opportunities for people with disabilities of all ages by providing meaningful programs and services. Whereas Easter Seals Newfoundland and Labrador's recreation programs help those with disabilities explore what they can do through independence camps, art and music therapy, and adaptive sports, promoting full, active, and healthy, socially engaged lifestyles. Whereas Easter Seals Newfoundland and Labrador offers career and educational services to assist those with barriers to employment in successfully transitioning from home and school into adulthood and independence with a focus of preparing for, obtaining, and maintaining gainful employment. Easter Seals Newfoundland and Labrador has an I Can Too disability awareness program, whereas they are activities which foster disability awareness and sensitivity and provide tools for accessibility and inclusion. Therefore, with the support of the council here in the city of Mount Pearl, on behalf of my colleagues, I sign this proclamation and declare the month of March in 2023 to be observed throughout the city of Mount Pearl as Easter Seals Month. I call upon all citizens of the city to support this worthwhile charitable organization and people of all ages and the disabilities it services. And if you'd like an opportunity to speak to the proclamation, Councillor Antle, please.
I just wanted to use this new microphone, so. Right. Just your worship, what a great organization, the Easter Seals. I guess we're all familiar with the Easter Seals. And one of the things I was looking at this afternoon when I was going over the kit is how many good things they do and how easy it is for us to get involved. They want to get involved. They have so many volunteer groups. If anybody wants to go out and help, just put your name down to volunteer. They'd certainly appreciate that. And the little things they have, monthly contributions, a little dollar here and a dollar here certainly helps. but I think we all already help. They have fundraisers every year, and one of the things, their cabin fundraiser. And that cabin fundraiser outsells every year. And I think it's so successful because people want to help. And this is such a great organization. Thank you.
Any further comments? Getting a bit of feedback. I'm going to work through this now. I'm not sure I get the angles right. It is definitely me. National Engineering Month and our proclamation for 2023. Whereas engineering uses scientific skills and specialized knowledge and skills in creative and innovative ways to fulfill society's needs, and whereas engineering helps solve major technical challenges of our time, from designing efficient building systems to rebuilding towns and cities devastated by natural disasters. And whereas engineering has been called the invisible or stealth profession, because everything around us and things we use every day have been engineered in some way, yet we may not see the engineering behind the scenes or know much about the engineering. And whereas Engineering Month promotes recognition among parents, teachers, and students of the importance of a technical education and a high level of math, science, and technology, literacy, and motivates youth to pursue engineering careers in order to provide a diverse and vigorous engineering workforce. Excuse me. Whereas the City of Mount Pearl would like to acknowledge engineering here in the City of Mount Pearl in honor of National Engineering Month, observed March 1st to the 31st. I therefore, on behalf of my colleagues in council, proclaim March 2023 happy to sign the proclamation. And I'd like to turn to the engineer, our chief engineer, Jerry Antle, for a few comments first.
I'll try it now as well. Can you hear me? Thank you, Your Worship. And I hope you weren't coughing on the message of our proclamation, because it's a very important proclamation. It's across Canada. Canada's largest celebration of engineering excellence is what's celebrated during this month. The work of engineers, their role in society. It presents a forum for engineering students and engineers in training. I learned this through last week, actually. There's 35,000 engineering students currently in the country of Canada, currently studying engineering. The intention of this month is to empower and inspire, to think about what is our role, what will be our impact, and how we use and how we meet engineering challenges. The theme of the month is there's a place for you in engineering. It's to encourage diversity of thought and the diversity of opportunities. And I thank the City of Mount Pearl for speaking to Engineering Month in our city.
Thank you. Mark, Councillor Rice, please.
Thank you, Worship. So I'll just stay back from the mic now. I know they're loud. So I just want to acknowledge our, I guess, our past engineers of the city, but also the current engineers. So I'd like to speak actually on two of our past engineers that we have with the city of Mount Pearl. Eric Reid was an engineer. So Eric Reid was a professional engineer and also a city member or city council member with the town of Mount Pearl, and served for 4 terms from 1969 to 1984. Mr. Reid is believed to be the first and the only engineer to serve as a City of Mount Pearl councillor. On April 27, 1985, the town's new community centre was named after Mr. Reid to preserve his memory and to recognize and acknowledge his dedication and service to the community. As a councillor, Mr. Reid helped to shape the events and the advancement of the town or the city, from the town of Mount Pearl to the City of Mount Pearl, serving for a period as chairperson for Public Works Committee, and was an integral part of the building of the facilities such as the Reid Community Centre, to which the Reid Community Centre now is named after Mr. Eric Reid. So I just want to acknowledge Mr. Reid The second past engineer. That I'd like to acknowledge is H. Neil Windsor. Mr. Neil Windsor was a professional engineer and also a provincial politician, representing the electoral district of Mount Pearl in Newfoundland and Labrador House of Assembly from 1975 to 1995, so 20-year span. In 1972, Mr. Windsor was Mount Pearl's first town engineer. During his time as town engineer, he was instrumental in the construction of the Smallwood Arena. We also know it as the Old Tin Can. I played there many games when I first moved into Mount Pearl. And he was, and also the Park Avenue swimming pool. Mr. Windsor is credited with being a driving force behind Mount Pearl achieving its city status. And in November 2014, Mount Pearl's municipal building was renamed H. Neil Windsor Municipal Building, which is the Infrastructure Public Works Building now up in Donovan's Industrial Park. And that building keeps on growing, and we're always finding ways, I guess, up there to advance the building, and a lot of our infrastructure and public works equipment is held up there at that structure. So I just want to acknowledge both of those past engineers with the city of Mount Pearl, and acknowledge our support of how important it was for the builders, I guess, of the city of Mount Pearl. It was a town of Mount Pearl, then into the city status. And I'd like to pass it over now to my colleague, Councillor Fry, to speak on the present engineers that we have in the city.
Thank you very much.
I get the privilege of introducing our three engineers currently with our city. And I'm going to start with Jeremy Freak. Jeremy joined the city of Mount Pearl in 2022, and he's a senior engineer, currently helping to manage the design and construction of the city's future civic center, ice rink, and splash pad facility. Jeremy graduated from Memorial University with a Bachelor of Engineering degree, civil, in 2019, and has quickly proven to be a valuable asset to our city. We also have Daryl Drover, and Daryl joined the city of Mount Pearl in 2011 and is the Assistant Manager of Engineering Services. Daryl is a dedicated engineer who has managed many large-scale projects throughout his career with the city, including the newly constructed smart accessible playground in St. David's Park, the Cambia Gymnastics Facility, and the Summit Center. And Daryl is our in-house expert on asset management and is very passionate about ensuring a prosperous future for the city. Daryl graduated from Memorial University with a Bachelor of Engineering degree in civil and structural in 2003. Now, I think it's really important for our residents to know who works behind the scenes, because we have such talent, and we are very fortunate to have our senior engineer, Jerry Andel. Jerry joined the city of Mount Pearl in 2011 and is the Director of Planning, Engineering, and Development, moving into his role in 2022 after having served as the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works for more than a decade. Jerry began his career with provincial government as a bridge design engineer, later working as a senior regional engineer, and then as a regional director, and ultimately as Assistant Deputy Minister with the Departments of Municipal Affairs and Transportation and Works. Jerry is also the chair-elect of the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists, Newfoundland and Labrador Board of Directors, and he's becoming our chair or president this summer. So that's quite an accomplishment. In the more than 10 years that Jerry has served the city, he has led infrastructure and public works during the COVID pandemic, major snowfalls such as Snowmageddon, and water conservation projects, as well as our capital works projects in excess of $100 million. Jerry graduated from Memorial University with a Bachelor of Engineering degree, civil, in 1987 and a public administration certificate in 2005. And I think we can all agree that we have a tremendous team here within the city, and they take really good care of our capital works and all of our engineering requirements. Sincere thanks to all.
Very well said. Anybody else would like to speak? Councillor Locke and then Councillor Handel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm so delighted that we're bringing this proclamation in here. The city of Mount Pearl, as we all know, is a very well-planned city. We're known again as a city right from its infancy, and a lot of the success that we've had over the years is a direct result from the professional engineers that we had in our employ. I know Jerry Antle, he engineered at the provincial government, and he worked with my wife's uncle George, who's passed on, and Jerry said he was a great mentor to him, and they built bridges across the province. But I bring that up only to make the point that Jerry has himself grown into a wonderful mentor for young engineers. Many people respect Jerry highly in the field. When I mention Jerry's name, they always speak so well of his skills and his professionalism. And I've had the pleasure to be working with Jerry over the last 10 years on council, throwing lots of questions his way, and he always welcomes questions because that's how we both learn. So I just want to say that, again, I'm delighted that we brought this proclamation here, and it's a pleasure to work with all the engineers around the city. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Over to Councillor Antle.
Your worship, I'll try to be quick and I'll try not to cry. I won't. Just a quick note. I happen to know Eric Reid. I knew him just by passing. He was a little bit older than I was. But today I called Pat O'Keefe and I asked Pat, what type of guy was Eric Reid? I mean, it was great to have an engineer on council. And Pat said he was well knowledgeable. You know, he's almost like yourself, Director Antle. He took his time and he was very methodical in his decisions. But he said, Pat said, you know, one thing about Eric, he was always comical, or he'd come up with things at a different time. And Pat said one M&L meeting that was very tense, and they were outside and they were talking about different things. And there was a bunch of crows on a wire. And Pat said, Eric looked up and he looked at the crows and he said, you know, he said, all those crows, he said, are so easy to train. And, you know, they said, well, how easy is that? He said, just watch. And he took out, went out and got some peanuts, and he came back and he sat down. Next thing, the crows came down and started to eat peanuts out of his hand. He said, that's how fast you can train a crow. But he said, if you train them in your house, the problem is, he said, they're going to eat your clothes off your clothesline. And he said, your wife's not going to like you. But, you know, that's one of those things that Eric did. He was always making things light. Another thing that Eric Reid did was, you know, the tin can, if we can remember when Mount Pearl Blades, when they first started, Eric arranged to get the ice maker out of the Labatt's Brewery. And that's how the tin can started. I mean, the ice machine from Labatt's Brewery came in, and Eric Reid was instrumental in getting that. So well done for Eric, and that's great to see that. One of the engineers on staff, I've known him a lifetime. Yeah, pretty close. Right? Well, yeah, he's a little bit older than I am, right? You know, I always knew that, you know, when you grew up with Jerry, he was always very methodical. I remember we shared a bedroom, and every day, you know, I had changed my room around, you know, move the furniture around, but Jerry would build all the furniture with little tiny pieces of cardboard, and he'd move that furniture around so make sure everything fit. But Jerry was a little bit younger than I was, so when I was coming home 19 and 20 years old, my bedroom was always changed around. Some days it wasn't very nice. Right? And we used to always think about, you know, I saw this note here about a high level of math. We called Jerry the human calculator. You know, you call out any numbers and he'd figure it out. But I certainly, over the past 4 or 5 years, I get to see him work. And you did a great job. And I'm not going to start to cry. I won't do that. But you did a good job. Thank you.
Well said. Yeah, indeed. I think I'm gonna look around the table, and I know Director Antle is happy to share his city with us, because Jerry is from Mount Pearl. But Jerry, to you and all the engineers, whether you're family, and we certainly feel like family here, to our friends and to your profession. Yeah, thanks for helping build our city and our province and our nation. And, you know, there's many other Lego blocks, you know, in that piece, but certainly without some planning and intelligence and intellect behind it, I don't think this country would be as great as it is. So I want to just close off by saying that, and happy to proclaim March 2023 in the province as Engineering Month. Thank you very much. And I'm getting my voice back. Thank you for the stork that just delivered the halls. And I'm going to now turn to the Recreation and Community Safety Committee report, and we're going to have Councillor Antle speak.
And he won't start crying. And the first one for me, for our committee is the Building Age Friendly Community Grant. On February the 20th, the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador announced they were accepting applications for the Building Age Friendly Community Grants to help municipalities make necessary upgrades to the communities to accommodate the seniors and all individuals as they age. Recreation and Community Safety Committee recommends approval to proceed with the application for funding for the accessible picnic tables and benches for the amount of $21,128.56. And I so move.
It is moved by Counselor Antle and seconded. Thank you by Counselor Lane. All in favor? And those opposed? And quickly, motion carried. Thank you.
And number two, it has to do with washroom paper. It's a great topic. In January 2023, the vendor supplying the city of Mount Pearl with washroom paper supplies advised they were no longer able to continue to supply these products for the tender price in 2020 TP 20-014. The vendor informed the city of the required increase per case of paper towels and toilet tissue and had provided a guarantee to maintain these prices until December 31st, 2023. An estimated increase of approximately $34,000 to the annual budget. Current pricing was sought from two other local vendors. However, their pricing was higher than our existing vendors' new submitted pricing. I guess at times to change. I mean, with COVID and everything else is going up. You can see the prices there, how it's going to reflect. The committee recommends approval to accept the price increases of the lowest bidder, Chandler, and amend the existing contract to reflect the same and to notify the vendor that the city will extend the existing contract until December 31st, 2023. The committee further recommends that a new tender for the washroom paper be completed in fall of 2023, seeking a new 3-year contract. And I so move.
It is moved by Counselor Antle and again seconded by Counselor Lane. So this is not a tender. This is a vendor who's unable to perform at the price in the contract. We go get 3 quotes and we're gonna let that vendor continue with the contract at a higher price. Is that, have I got this right? Is it fair?
That's correct.
So in the middle of a contract, a vendor has asked for a price increase. It seems that they are still the lowest in the market, correct? And council is asked here today to extend the price only to the end of this calendar year. Director Collins.
And the thought, to your worship, is by getting the 2 extra prices, confirming that they're still the lowest. We could retender now, but the thought is if we wait in December, we may get better prices because we're further out from the pandemic. And that's why the rationale for waiting for fall to retender.
Council, any questions? I have some concerns, but I want to hear from you folks first.
I have a
please.
question.
Councilor Fry.
I'm just wondering if we have a contract, do we have any, I mean, I know we're only talking a fairly small amount, but it's not when it comes to a tight budget. And I'm just wondering if we have a contract, do we have any legal standings to enforce that contract? Like, why do we have to adjust our prices?
Working with procurement, this has happened several times in 18 months. You recall several items came to this table with those price increases. In this case, we did go out with 2 extra price quotes just to see. Because ultimately, the vendor is not going to supply. Highest price.
To me, like a contract is legal binding, so that's why I have a hard time wrapping my head around this one.
So the vendor here is losing money. Let's just put that on the table for a second. That's the reason for potentially withdrawing from the contract. But I guess the question I have to procurement is that should they not qualify for the rest of the year? Should we? And I guess you're in a bad situation because if you go to the next bidder that's higher than them, it's going to cost more than $34,000 a year. I guess we're trying to make the best of a bad situation. Anybody else want to chime in? Deputy Mayor.
So ultimately, what we're saying is, even in a matter of we are saying we're not paying that and we have to go for the next bidder, it would be costing us. So this is our way of being able to find a balance. Okay. And that's fair. Like I can see if we're talking about, if we're going to pursue, the issue of breaking a contract or the contract is null and void, which again, that to me, logically, if the next step is more money on the table versus we can negotiate with somebody who is dealing with the outcomes of everyone right now, which is inflation and the increasing costs and potentially transportation. I could see that happening, but I understand midway through a contract when this happens versus a renewal or before we move into the specs. But again, no, you're right. We've had this come up time and time again where we have been quoted and then 2 to 3 months down the line, there's additional costs. That is just the volatility of a concern, and I think that concerns us all every time we're seeing this more and more.
Counselor Rice.
Yeah, Judge, same here. I just want to have a brief comment on it as well. I do have some concerns with this as well. And are we setting a precedent here of going forward with tenders and contracts that are awarded? Can companies come in the middle of their contract or partway through, and just because they're not making enough profit, can they go ahead and cancel? So I'm looking at the others. Same as Councillor Fry just mentioned about the legal part of it. Do we have any jurisdiction or areas to go back to the legal part? Because we did see such through the city and through a lot of companies, there was a lot of price gouging that happened during COVID. And there's still a true reflection of that happening now in the industry where prices are gone, increased by up to 200-300%. So, we only got a certain amount of a budget to operate within the city as we all know that. And it's very challenging each year to try to come up with a balanced budget. And so it's very difficult going forward to know where we stand on this because, it could be a precedent setting thing here with companies bidding on these tenders. So I just wanted to bring that to the table. And, that's the concern that I got, right?
Thank you. And Counselor Locke.
Thank you, Mayor. I do share the concerns expressed by my council colleagues here. But I do appreciate the rationale that Director Collins put forth. It's not a nice situation to be in. But again, the rationale used was we could cancel this contract, go to market. But before we did that, we tested the waters of the market. And with this $34,000 increase, it's still a better bang for the buck than if we drop the contract and go to the marketplace for another contract. So I understand the rationale in the hopes that by the 31st of December, 2023, that the market may come back down once supply chains get built up again. Again, I appreciate the concerns expressed by my council colleagues, but I do support the rationale behind this recommendation. I will be supporting it.
Yeah, as we talked about this in committee, that's the same thing we came up with, we canceled this contract and went back and high tender, we're going to pay more. We're going to hit a rock and a hard spot, just exactly what it said. It's going to cost us $34,000, but that was the lowest option we had. So until this happens again, we had to move forward.
Counselor Lane has not had a chance. Your turn.
Thanks. No, I just want to say, this definitely wasn't an easy decision, but it is a result of the financial times right now. We've seen increases in quite a few things here in the city, and this is one of them. To cancel the contract, we didn't really see that as a viable option at this time. So we went with the best option that we could at this time. And even with a $34,000 increase, it is the best financial option for the city at this time. So unfortunately, hopefully things will go down in the future.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor because we have to reflect the 34,000. Anybody else want to speak to it? Counselor Fry?
Yeah, I understand. I understand all that. I'm just wondering, in the original tender, have we gone to the second bidder to see if the second bidder could provide the services?
That was one of the two that we reached.
Thank you. I understand the predicament. It just seems like $34,000 is a lot of money for toilet paper. Thank you.
I'm gonna call the question in a second, but I'm gonna make a suggestion. I think somebody said we're between a rock and a hard place, so I'm thinking, I'm not sure why we need to wait till the fall of 2023 to do another tender. I think getting quotes is not the same thing as putting a tender out there. Typically, this would be for longer than a few months. It might be a 2 or 3 year tender. So why wouldn't we accept the prices? Ride that along until we have a chance to get a complete new tender document out. But my question for you, Director, is why would we ultimately wait till December 31st to get a new contract in place?
The rationale for the recommendation is in speaking to other prospective suppliers. Right now, the suppliers are inflating their prices for safety. So that's why the rationale is waiting until the fall. We're paying for those inflated prices for 3 years now. Waiting a little bit, maybe.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Thank you. Motion carried reluctantly, I'm sure.
And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Councillor Lane.
We got through the last 2 weeks, didn't we?
Just one question.
Good stuff.
Just a quick question, Andy. I had a question on the tailgate party. Can you bring your own propane fireplace or propane barbecue if you want to bring it?
Barbecue or pit?
Stove or
It's a fire
suggest not with the fire pits. The city will provide 4 fire pits for people to gather around, but people suggested to bring their own propane stoves or some form
For cooking.
for cooking.
That's the idea, right? Councillor Antle serving hot dogs then. I'm impressed.
They're on the grill.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Corporate Services and Public Works, and the Deputy Mayor is going to speak.
Your worship. Oh. Left-handed person with the new technology. Interesting, interesting. Like I said, the best way to experience policy or change is personal experience. So I might have to do a rejig, but I think I've got it so far. So for our committee, I'm going to start with our first item here, which is the invoices for approval. As we see presented, there's 4 items in our kit here with the value totaling of $157,496.89. And there you could see listed there the title of each expense along with a brief description. I just wanted to note two items that really have to do with some of the partnerships we have. One, of course, is our membership contribution for the Grand Course Authority. We are happy to link into that incredible bit of trailway that allows us to expand to other parts of the region. But more importantly, that we have it here right in Mount Pearl that we can utilize and enjoy some of the Waterford River as many of us have done over the past year and many months. So we also have there the St. John's Transportation Commission, which is our transit fees. And that's a significant amount of this budget. That's $107,622.72. And certainly that's a huge piece of commitment that we do with regards to transit fees and transit within the city. So that is what I have, unless there's any further questions. I'd like to move for those expenses.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Locke. Any questions, council? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Count your minders. Carried. Thank you.
Number 2 for our agenda is for information for council. And as you can see in the kit there, the following payment registry between the time frame of February 17th to March 1st, 2023. And the total is $727,694.33. So as you see there, there's the vendor name, the document date, as well as the total cost. If further information regarding any one of those expenses or specific vendor purchase or expense, I should say, you're more than welcome to bring it up here or also to our committee. So that's just for information. Just take my finger off the button for a minute. All right, thank you. So that leaves us to our next item, number 3. So we've got some coming up, and of course, it's that time of year where travel is more permitted and people are wanting to collaborate, and we've got some professional development requests. The first one, of course, is from our CAO Danesboro, the 49th annual CAMA conference in Huntsville, Ontario, between May 29th and 31st, 2023. Our committee reviewed the information distributed prior to the meeting, and we're supportive of the above note. And if I guess we'll move. We've got a few professional development quiz. We'll start with that one. I so move.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Locke. Yeah, CAMA, Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, very closely aligned with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? And those opposed? Carried. Back to you.
Thank you, Your Worship, for elaborating on that acronym. I think it's sometimes we get so close to them, but it's a very valuable experience. Then we have a professional development request for our director, Glenn Dollymon, which is the CPWA annual conference in Clarenville between May 12th and 10th to the 12th and for 2023. Again, our committee reviewed it and was supportive of the above noted items. I so move that as well.
Again, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Locke. Director Dollymon, is that the national conference or is that the Newfoundland and Labrador conference as it aligns with the Canadian Public Works Association? Tough question, maybe.
No, that is actually the Newfoundland Labrador chapter of the Canadian Public Works Association. It's in conjunction with the APWA, which is the North America wide conference. But this again is just for the Newfoundland Labrador chapter.
Good stuff. Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Those opposed? Carried.
And the final request for professional development tonight is for Director Jason Collins for the U.S. Indoor Sports Association Annual Conference and Trade Show that's happening in Henderson, Nevada from May 17th to the 19th for 2023. Committee once again reviewed the information distributed prior to the meeting in support of the above noted request. and I so move.
Again, moved by Deputy Mayor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Locke, and this lines up with our professional development policies. Any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded? And that one's carried as well.
And that's my final item for the corporate services aspect of the agenda, and I hand it off to my colleague, Councillor Locke.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. See what you're saying about navigating two things at one time. At this time, I'm grateful that my parents switched me from left-handed to right-handed at a very young age. I was once left-handed, but I'm now right-handed. I will thank them later on tonight when I.
We do recognize you only have two hands, right?
That's right, yeah. Anyways, the next item for us, your worship, has to do with the codes of conduct for municipalities regarding Municipal Conduct Act. Now, the city is legislatively required to establish codes of conduct for all municipal officials as well as council members in accordance with this Municipal Conduct Act. In the fall of 2021 session of the House of Assembly, new legislation was introduced called the Municipal Conduct Act. And the act was proclaimed and became into legal effect on September the 1st of 2022. And I remember at our swearing in ceremony, the Honorable Minister Howell was at and she made mention of this new act and the importance of it and the impact it was going to have on municipalities as well as councillors, as well as municipal administrators and workers. The new act governs conflict of interest, ethical behavior, and professional conduct for municipalities. This legislation requires municipalities to establish codes of conduct, including one for council members and one for municipal officials, including employees and anyone acting on behalf of a municipality in an official capacity. These codes of conduct must be established within 6 months of the act coming into force. So i.e. on or before March the 1st of 2023. The attached municipal official code of conduct and council code of conduct have been developed for the city of Mount Pearl by combining the department's templates with the city's existing employee code of conduct, as well as our respectful workplace policy and procedure. So I just want to thank the staff for the huge amount of work that went into this. And the policies that we have here now and the codes of conduct are very robust and a welcomed improvement. Both codes, both for the municipal officials as well as the employees, they contain provisions on standards of professional behavior, the use of influence, the misuse of public assets and fraud, confidentiality, social media, harassment, discrimination, and bullying, legislative compliance, and adverse actions or reprisals, allegations in bad faith. The Code of Conduct for Municipal Officials also contains provisions on conflict of interest, covered by legislation for councillors, disclosure statements, and conflict of interest complaints and investigations. These codes, Mayor, would meet the city's legislative obligations, eliminate where possible or otherwise minimizing the hazard of harassment and discrimination in its workplace, and provide a safe, inclusive, healthy, respectful, and rewarding environment for its employees, its councillors, its contractors, and any third parties under contract or agreement with the city. There are no budget implications to the implementation of these codes. And once established, training regarding the codes will need to take place as legislatively required by June the 1st of 2023. The training will be provided to all current staff. All contractors and volunteers will be advised of the codes and provided copies and general overviews when they begin their involvement with the city. New hires will be made aware of the codes as well as their obligations upon their hire. This matter was discussed by council at their committee of the whole meetings on February 21st, as well as February the 28th of 2023, and the proposed codes were supported by the committee. The recommendation from our Corporate Services and Public Works Committee is the ratification. We recommend ratification that the city establish the Council Code of Conduct and Municipal Officials Code of Conduct as presented for implementation effective March 7th, 2023, with appropriate training to take place by June 1st, 2023, and I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Locke and seconded, thank you, by Deputy Mayor Kiley. Any questions, council? Any comments? Councillor Antle and then Councillor Rice.
Your worship. I certainly support this motion and it's certainly it's a good thing, I think. We talked about this at great length at Committee of the Whole. And, for me as a councillor, I think, well, you can all speak for yourselves, but as a councillor, it was a proud day when I got elected and I actually asked Arlene to give me the oath of office. And when I read that oath of office, I won't go through it all, but it says, I will faithfully, to the best of my ability, perform the duties and responsibilities of my office. I will not allow a direct or indirect monetary or other personal or private interest to influence my conduct. When you take this very seriously, I mean, we become councillors. Most of this is second nature to us. Your word is your bond. And one of the things I thought about as I looked over this and I read it over, although, we're very transparent board, everything is on the up and up, right? But sometimes we deal with confidential matters in Committee of the Whole. And those confidential matters stay confidential until we can find out exactly how it settles. With a developer is trying to do some work here in the city, he or she are trying to share some information. We have to keep that information confidential. So, and it's good to know that a developer can count on us and we're going to keep our word. A resident expects some kind of confidence from us too. So, I think this is all second nature and I'm certainly proud. One of our directors brought up when we talked about this, a councillor in the city of Mount Pearl is a councillor in the city of Corner Brook. So wherever we go, we're representing the city of Mount Pearl and be proud of that. And I certainly support this and thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rice, and then the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I'm so glad actually this code of conduct is coming forward because it's black and white. There's no gray areas here at all. And we are, like Councillor Antle just mentioned, we are held in strict confidence, but we're going by the guidelines of this now. So it's so good to see it here on paper, and bringing this motion forward is really important to the city of Mount Pearl, and we certainly support it. And just want to put my full support behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kiley.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just want to add to the support we're hearing, unanimously around this table. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of language and what this particular document means. There's not only certainly, it identifies there may not be a budgetary change, but there certainly is a contribution to the social and cultural environment that we create here amongst us as peers, officials, and within the city, that this really allows us to be both ethically and professionally responsible and accountable to not only our actions, but how we comport ourselves publicly and amongst ourselves. I'm so proud and honored to have been a part of the conversations over the past month that really looked at this document as a living and breathing of, well, what does this mean? What does an operational definition of harassment mean? What does an operational definition of bullying mean? What instances within the workplace, amongst our tables, within our committee work, what will this have an impact? Because to me, that is an excellent exercise to say we know the weight of this, we see it in operations, and we already are seeing it at play. Today allows us to bring in and ensure that we are not only understanding the value and how we see this play out, but we're now ratifying it and committing to it moving forward. And I know that there's a significant history of our city, and very proud to know about that, that advocated and pushed forward for conduct legislation. And we continue to do that at all levels of our government. And it's while we're not the only municipality that's probably putting something similar in place, I know we are a municipality that sees the value of this, the importance of this. And I'm just incredibly thankful to the team that put this in place, the eyes, the policy review that went into this. This is a significant document. And I also want to just quickly talk about the next steps to this, which is even as important as the document itself, which is the training and the understanding of that. I think that's going to be so important. I'm very much looking forward to be a part of that training. And so are my colleagues. I'm sure I can say, so that we can not only make sure that this is not a document that stays on a desk or within the bookshelves, but this truly is a living, breathing document that we're going to be carrying with us, taking with us, and that we're accountable for in all of our aspects of our roles here within the city. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to turn it over shortly to Councillor Locke to close debate, but I do want to say, well, two things. Many thanks to the leadership shown in this room, but especially with our city clerk and our CIO and your team for keeping, and let's be frank, keeping the politics out of this. This is all about doing the right thing. It may look like it's just an exercise to become legislatively compliant, but frankly, we've had a solid set of procedures, policies with regards to bullying and harassment here in the city of Mount Pearl. And the one thing I'm proud of is the leadership shown by the city on a provincial level. I want to thank Minister Howell for implementing this. And ultimately, it means that across the board, all municipalities must live up to the same thing. And as Councillor Antle said, we have an oath of office. And really that oath of office is for us politicians, is a proxy for all this here. Because, we wouldn't want to read all this, when we're being sworn in. But that's what that oath of office says, that we come to serve the residents of the city of Mount Pearl. We come to serve each other, and here are the standards. If you come to this table, you walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk at the end of the day. And I think by bringing in this a more robust set of conduct standards, I think we're in a good place how we deal with each other and deal with our employees, our residents, and our businesses. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved. And I'm glad the city's shown leadership provincially on this issue. So over to you, Councillor Locke, to close her up.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate all the comments from council colleagues here. And I will, you did mention what I was going to say, that prior to this code of conduct and municipal conduct code or act, we did have robust respectful workplace policies and harassment bullying policies here in Mount Pearl. So when we overlaid the provincial template with ours, we had considerable work done on this. And I agree with you that Mount Pearl has a reputation of being leaders in the province on so many fronts. And I too am proud of the leadership that we took here to make sure that there are these codes of conduct in place. Councillor Antle said it so well and passionately. To be elected as a community leader is a huge honor. It's a great honor, and it carries with it huge responsibility. So this is not something where you can take your council hat off at the end of the day and hang it on the door. We're leaders. We lead by example. So how we conduct ourselves amongst ourselves here in this public chamber, in the larger community, it matters. It matters. And we are elected to set the tone for our city. And I'm proud of the team that we have around the table, my council colleagues, as well as our senior staff here, because we are good examples for our community. So again, I'll just, I move that we accept the recommendation here, Mayor. Thank you.
And I'll call the question or the motion. All in favor? And those opposed? And thank you. We have a new code of conduct and training to follow.
Thank you, Mayor. Just, yeah, there's so again, all because it's robust. So there's quite a lot of information here. Yes, it is. Okay, all right. So next for us, our last item, your worship, is the Public Works status report. The committee reviewed the following status report. And just to highlight some points here, the individual prepaid bulk collections are still ongoing for 2023. Our winter cleanup continues with blowback, snow removal in our cul-de-sacs or sidewalks. Fire hydrants are cleared and accessible. Our winter equipment maintenance and preparation is still ongoing. I think, Mr. Dahlman, are we in, what, we've got 6 weeks left of winter or 5 weeks left? I know you told us in our meeting yesterday and I forget.
It's being recorded.
We're at about week, this is week 17 in our 22-week schedule.
So 5 weeks.
So yes, closer to 5.
There you go. So, so our preparation work is still ongoing. 2 new flyers have arrived in our fleet. And this was from our 2021 replacement plan, and they're being prepped for service. I know we did work on the outdoor rinks and they were well utilized when we had the cold weather. Maybe today the rain that we're seeing will help smooth them out again if we get some cold weather. So they're a great addition. The trail grooming, we know is ongoing, and we were out for a walk, my wife and I, over the past couple of nights on the T Railway, and the number of people, I know Councillor Antle says this all the time, the number of people that enjoy our trails and comment on the trails and the groomer, what a great innovation the city brought in. So it's nice to see that they're well utilized. Our road maintenance is ongoing. Again, where these potholes pop up and any manhole repairs or asphalt repairs. Good news, the kiosk that we're going to have in place, hopefully we're on schedule to have it completed by May. This will be these mobile kiosks for these little pop-ups. So I'm excited to see those come into play. Some tenders that are closing for playground equipment, for a farm tractor, 1 loader, 8 pickups, 1 tri-deck mower, and 2 lawn tractors. And the water consumption level, again, I know I keep speaking of this, so with your leave, if I can just get the stats up. It says our water consumption for January 2023 was the second lowest for the month of January since it was recorded since 1997. And I again speak to our leak detection program and the effectiveness of this. So those around the table know I enjoy data because the data don't lie. They support our actions and our decisions. But in 2014, the use of water in January was 705,265 cubic meters. There's 1,000 liters in a cubic meter. So we went from 705 million liters of water in the month of January in 2014 down to 381 million. So that is a huge, huge reduction in water consumption. So I know I'm like a broken record bringing it up, but the robust leak detection that we have ongoing, and Mr. Director Dahlman was explaining the other day that it's not just a matter of, going around with our correlator and looking for the leaks, but sewer outfalls. Our staff will check to determine if there's any chlorine in this water. And that helps us narrow down where there may be leaks in our drinking water system. So again, I just want to celebrate this because I'm very proud of the again, leadership that the city of Mount Pearl took on this front. And again, we're saving not only the water, but there's huge cost savings with this as well, Mayor. So I just wanted to highlight that there and highlight that. And that, of course, brings me to the last one, which is our levels at Bay Bulls Big Pond as of February 27th of 2023. And you can see there that levels are pretty much on par with 2021 levels. That's it for our committee report, Mayor, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to Councillor Antle has a comment.
Just one quick comment on our trail grooming, and I think Director Antle, then maybe Councillor Locke can remember when the trains used to run here in Mount Pearl. If you get a chance, it's worth your while. Down in the trails in the nighttime, the trail groomers are so good. The trails are so good now. The mountain bikes are down there, the fat bikes. It's worth your while. Go down in the dark. It's the first time I saw it, I was thought I saw ghosts. But you see the train, you see the bikes coming out with the lights, and it's pitch black, and you see a train coming down the edge. It's so good to see. I mean, it's a great picture. So
It's the Newfie Bullet, eh?
yeah, it's so fabulous. Yeah, we're doing a great job on those trails. Not
All
my
good?
bike. My bike is electric. I'm feeling
Okay, I'm going to call upon Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Worship. We have several items to bring forward tonight for council. Number one is our 10 Westbrook Landing, DA 22-0075-10, request for home-based business from Jennifer Benson Music. So the background on this one, the city is in receipt of a home-based business application by Jennifer Benson Music proposing to operate a home occupation business at 10 Westbrook Landing to accommodate a music lesson business. So the home business occupation involves a private one-on-one music lessons between the hours of 3 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. The instruments being used for instruction is association with the home-based business are piano, guitar, and voice. There will be no percussion instruments. There will be approximately 10 visitors to the dwelling daily between Monday and Friday, including pickups and drop-offs. Approximately 6.3% of the total floor area of the dwelling will be used for the purpose of music instruction. No signage has been proposed. So public consultation was done back on January 28th. So the notice of application was proposed to the city website and was published in the Telegram on Saturday, January 28th, 2023. Notice was also circulated to 126 property owners within the 150-meter radius of the proposed development. In addition to the Member of Parliament, 2 MHAs and the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce via Canada Post on January 26, 2023. Prior to deciding on the application, comments from the general public were to be submitted in writing no later than 12 noon, Friday, February 10, 2023. The city has received 1 letter of support from a neighboring resident. No further written representation were received by the city as of February the 10th, 2023 deadline. As a result, the briefing session was cancelled. So the city, the Planning, Engineering, Development Committee recommends approval of the application by Jennifer Benson Music, proposing to operate a home occupation business at 10 Westbrook Landing to accommodate a music lesson business. The committee also recommends that a development permit be issued subject to section 7.18 of the Mount Pearl Development Regulation 2010, subject to the conditions as set out by the Department of Planning, Engineering and Development. Specifically, conditions are outlined by the following. Number 1, the St. John's Regional Fire Department. Number 2, the City of Mount Pearl Inspection Services Municipal Enforcement Division. Number 3, City of Mount Pearl Finance Division. Number 4, the City of Mount Pearl Planning Division. And finally, number 5, the City of Mount Pearl Development Regulation 2010 and related requirements. And I shall move.
It is moved by Councillor Rice and seconded by, thank you, Councillor Fry. Any questions on the recommendation and the motion? Councillor Rand, please.
yeah, it's just a quick note. How much would these home bases, they pay taxes, right? And is it comparable to regular business tax, or how does that tax work?
I don't know the amount. It's not based on assessment. It's based on I believe it's up to a maximum, typically tied to square footage, but Director Pittman is not here at this moment, but
Sorry,
I'm not sure you can make the comparison, but I'd ask you for a few minutes for us to join us.
thank you. Oh, wait, that's no problem.
Are you you're in support of the motion? Or okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay, I'll call the question first. We'll move on. Carry on. All in favor? And those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And we'll delay that question or the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you. So number 2 is pedestrian underpass remediation project, a request for approval. This one's a contractor change order number 4. Regarding this, for the change order is qualities adjustment on the project, the work. So background, the committee was advised that engineering services noted that quality adjustments were required due to increase and decreases from projections in previous approved change order number 3. The quality adjustments refer to 3 items within the project. The adjustments were required as follows. And you see it on the chart there. Item number one, increased amount due to removal of asphalt and road gravel for $1,960.24. Number two is decreased amounts for required abrasion blasting. And there's a credit there for $1,564 on that one. And number three is increased amount for required concrete for $11,853. The total value for the change order of number four is $12,249.29. So planning, engineering and development are recommending approval of the change order number four payable to Eric Taylor Limited for the amount of $12,249.29, HST included, to cover additional quality amounts required above the project values noted in previously approved change order number two. Please note that the current project budgets can accommodate this change order, and I so move.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Rice and seconded by Councillor Fry. Any questions? I do have one. Director, fairly standard job. This is driven by not pricing, but concrete, I think, eh? Can you explain just a little bit why we need, not a material amount of concrete, but certainly, I wouldn't say substantial, but it's enough, isn't it, to talk about it?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is reflective of what will be a normal occurrence in a unit price contract. What this is, we estimate the quantities that are required for the construction, which can vary, which will vary. So the amount of concrete here that was utilized, it varies depending on the height of the actual structural reinforcement that we did on this particular pedestrian underpass. So these quantities are verified through the actual work. So these are actual quantities measured. The actual compared to the estimated is what the difference is here, and it's paid for in accordance with the unit price contract amounts that are bid.
Thank you very much. Further questions, folks? I'll call the question. All in favor? Those opposed, and that change order number three is approved.
Thank you, Worship. I'll pass number 3, 4, and 5 over to my colleague, Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. There seems to be price increases everywhere, and the next one is no exception. So the next item on our agenda is for Farrell Drive Street upgrading Phase 1, and this is from Evans Place to Holden Street. Now, during the period of time between the design build request for proposal closing date and the award of the contract on February 17th, the supply of piping materials and accessories has had an escalation in manufacturing pricing. Increases were attributed to rising material costs, logistical and labor costs, including increased demand, supply chain disruptions, as well as fluctuating Canadian dollar. The Engineering Services Division has reviewed all the material cost increase and considers the value reasonable and substantiated through manufacturer research. So therefore, the recommendation of the Planning, Engineering and Development Committee, the committee has reviewed this request and recommends approval of the change order number 1 payable to Dexter Construction Company Limited for the amount of $143,361.21. HST included, and I so move.
By Councillor Fry and seconded by Councillor Rice. Councillor Antle has a question.
Question, $143,000, and we just questioned 35,000. Where are we getting the money for $143,000? It's not in the budget. It says it's not budgeted. I mean, we're only in March the 7th, 3 months in the year, and $143,000. I mean, the work has to suffer for $143,000. What do we do?
Director, we have contingencies.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Antle. This is a design build RFP. When it closed and when we awarded, so we did not actually have a contract in place until we actually considered these kinds of increases. This reflects a change in material pricing from wholesalers. These are the actual raw producers of material. This contract here, Council, we didn't include it in the numbers here, but Council may recall, this is a contract that's in the order of a $7 million contract. And this material price increase reflects something between the different materials, 7 and 11% price increases of materials only. There's no labor changes for the actual construction work that's going to occur here. This is raw material pricing. Also, we discussed, we have in the city this year in 2023, council has approved an asset management contingency that allows us a reserve for potential things like changes in our requirements for construction for projects. And this is where we propose to extract that increase from.
And in part, that's why that contingency was put in place, because I think council had the foresight when we approved the budget to see the environment that we were headed into. But it represents, I think, about a 2% increase, which even though the amount is quite large by my personal standards, it's a fairly small one based on percentage. Councillor Antle?
I know it's 2%, it's and we have a $55 million budget, $143,000. You know, it's only March. My concern is if this keeps on going, everything's going up. You know, if it keeps on going up, it's $7 million. I know it's a $7 million project and this is, 1 or 2%, but if it keeps on going up, I know you have a contingency, but do you think we'll run out?
Antle, I'm getting this worked out. Sorry, I got Councillor Antle. Director Antle, sorry. Oh, no worries.
There is quite a valid question. One of the things we've done in this particular increase is we've advised the contractor, and this is signed now in writing, that this material increase is fixed. No other additional prices on materials prices on this contract. So now they place their orders for materials, hence the materials are now acquired. So now it'll be about construction activity, which is bid prices and design build area.
But having said that, I mean, this is unusual because a design build results in very, very few change orders. But to have one now before construction even starts is all part of the process. But once construction does start, Director, I wouldn't be expecting too many changes here. I guess unforeseen things could happen, but the whole purpose with the design build is for the builder to get all those ducks lined up effective the date of start.
My easy answer is yes. That's the way a design build contract will proceed. The contractor, the builder is responsible for design and construction. There's a bunch of things that they must meet. We'll monitor that. There can be some changes in a design build, but they are limited because of the nature of the way the contract is structured.
But to answer Councillor Antle's question, it's the structure and the nature of the contract that mitigates any future inflation here. I won't say this is the last change order, but between the contingency and the process that we bought into, we don't have cost certainty, but we have pretty close to it.
I'd be hesitant to say we have, any guarantees. We have a fairly solid structure. Things can change when you do $7 million worth of, mostly underground replacement of infrastructure. In this case, we feel we are fairly confident in the way that this contract is structured, and with this material price escalation now fixed, we think we're in a good position.
Motion on the floor. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor.
This is a conversation I believe we have continued to talk about in all aspects of our committees. And it is inflation, and it is, specifically around material and how that really is. It is a volatile when we look at gas prices, when we look at inflation and that sort of thing. That doesn't make it any less concerning. I think what I wanted to comment on is the importance around mitigation that the city has been doing. So I do believe a reserve at that time we were in the middle of seeing increases. It's not the first or last time. And I think that was a response to somehow having the ability or a nimbleness to deal with outside of our control costs. So I do appreciate that. I think moving forward, looking at this in a larger context, I think there's work to be done, not only through our lens, but our federal partners and counterparts sometimes to this as well. if us as a municipality have become nimble as to creating reserves, being able to find flexibility in contracts with current bidders rather than going to a higher amount, I think that's also something that we need to be looking for some direction and leadership from our provincial and federal partners, where a significant amount of this money and something like Farrell Drive that's a multi-million-dollar investment that is ensuring our assets are important. But I think that's also something that we need to talk about is looking at ways that we look at these larger pots of funding and recognizing that our federal counterparts need to be more nimble and I think more reflective of the increase in costs. So it's not sitting at towns and municipalities to be able to do that. But I do recognize we've been doing that ourselves through the budgetary process, through procurement, and finding some sort of flexible ways to work with people that we've, between toilet paper to asphalt, these are all the same sort of matters, which is being able to work with somebody that it's profitable for them, but also allows us to get the projects and work done at the city that's necessary.
I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Council or Director Hantel, further comment, but the motion has been voted on.
I appreciate your worship. I was just wanting to follow up on the deputy mayor's quite valid point. And I'd like to also add that when we make application for these funding programs, they're made years in advance. So our estimates are prepared based on what we believe is the best forecast of construction pricing at the time. In the past year or so, nobody could have predicted the kind of escalation that we're seeing across the world. So just a little foreshadowing, we do have other construction contracts coming on multi-year programs that we know we're facing the same thing. Sometimes it involves us reducing the scope of some of the projects that we're anticipating for the projects that are to come.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Councillor Fry.
Thank you, your worship. Next on our agenda is our building and occupancy permit listing for the period of February 13th to the 24th. It's a little smaller than usual. There are no building construction permits, or no residential building permits. There are 2 building construction for commercial to renovate a property on Becklin Road and a tenant fit up on Topsail Road. And there are no occupancy permits issued in this period. So it's a little bit smaller, but very important, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Fry and seconded, thank you, by Councillor Rice. All in favor? Those opposed? And that's carried. Thank you.
And finally, for us, it's just for information purposes, is our capital and maintenance project update. The 2023 crack ceiling tender is closing on March 14th. The 2023 to 2025 line painting tender is closing on March the 6th. The 2023 asphalt and concrete tender, the tender is to be issued in mid-March. And the Parks Shed fuel switching tender closed on March the 2nd. And that's it for our committee report this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn to the round table. We may have to limit our items, folks. It is a little bit longer meeting than usual, but it's always a pleasure to be here. I'm going to go to Councillor Fry, but then I'm going to, with your blessing, Councillor Locke, I'm going to go to Councillor Lane. She may have to depart for a second and then come to you. Councillor Fry.
Okay, I just have a couple of things this evening, and I wanted to start with congratulations to the more than 40 nominees across 10 categories, and to the award winners at the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce annual Best in Business Awards this week. It was such a lovely evening, and the atmosphere was so elegant and magical. And of course, you couldn't have a better host than Keith Power. He's always fantastic. And it was so professional and well organized. I just wanted to say a thank you to Wanda Palmer, Darlene Kareen, and the entire board of directors, and congratulations to all. And speaking of awards, our nominations are now open for our Focus on Youth Awards. And this is so important because in Mount Pearl, we've had tremendous youth that have gone on to do really great things. And we all know that there are fantastic youth in our city. So the awards are designed to honor youth who make outstanding contributions to the community in the areas of arts, sports, self-improvement, volunteerism, and science. And nominations are open for a month and until April the 7th. So I strongly encourage people to nominate someone deserving. I would also like to congratulate the Special Olympics Newfoundland and Labrador. It's been 1 year since they opened their thrift store on 1154 Topsail Road. And they have some great items there. I encourage people to stop by and support Special Olympics, Newfoundland and Labrador, and their programs and their athletes in our province. And finally, for me, I had the privilege of attending Reimagining Leadership, Portraits of Courage Women's Leadership Conference this week. And it was hosted through MUN. The keynote speakers included activist and advocate Elizabeth Smart, which was incredible to hear her version, her story of what happened to her. Indigenous fashion designer Sage Paul and world champion Olympian Perdita Felician. And this particular day was extraordinary for the women involved because we were hearing stories and everything resonated, because as women, we tend to compare ourselves to other women who seem to have it all together. And, you know, their hair is always perfect. Their makeup is always perfect. They're on the ball. They have things happening. But no woman is that way all the time. And to hear them speak about their struggles and their real road to where they became and what they've endured, I think it's something that every woman needs to hear from time to time, that nobody is perfect. And while we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to strive for perfection, we need to be kind to ourselves. And that is where I wanted to lead into, because tomorrow is International Women's Day. And there was a beautiful quote that I saw. I'm just going to share it with you guys, because every woman is a leader, whether it's a leader in the family home or whether it's a chief administrative officer of the best city in the world. So the quote goes like this: characterized by emotional intelligence and ethical decision-making, women's leadership is essential for the well-being of society. And I just wanted to wish all my colleagues on council and in this room and all my friends a happy International Women's Day tomorrow. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you much. We're going to dart over to Councillor Lane and then to you, Councillor Locke.
Thank you. It'll be very brief for me. I just wanted to mention the summer day camp and park patrol positions. So for information for the public, the summer employment application for summer day camp and park patrol will be available on the city's website this week. Closing date for the summer day camp applications is April 7th, 2023. And the closing date for the park patrol applications is April 28th, 2023. And these are both excellent positions. Every summer we hire many youth to fill these positions. And I know that from personal experience and relationships that they are very much enjoyed. So I encourage residents to keep an eye on these positions that'll be coming this week. And I also want to acknowledge International Women's Day. I'm so thankful to work with so many great and powerful women here. You know, women run the world. Simple as that. And that'll be it for me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Locke.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of items. First, I want to draw my council colleagues' attention to a session that's going on this Thursday afternoon at 12:30. It's online. It's from MNL, and it has to do with the new Connect Pass. I know we get regular updates from MNL, but this one really caught my eye. And the Newfoundland Labrador Public Libraries is looking for municipalities of all sizes to partner with their Connect Pass, a new project that aims to provide access to swimming pools, skating rinks, museums, snowshoe rentals, and similar facilities. So this is an online information session for municipal councillors and administrators interested in hearing more about this. It's a brand new library program where patrons can use their library card to check out a pass for free admission to a local museum, gallery, science park, park garden, recreation facility, sports game, performing arts show. Many other library systems across Canada and the United States have used similar programs. So our public libraries are looking to bring in a similar program, and they've already confirmed partnerships with the Rooms, the Geo Center, Newfoundland Symphony Orchestra, Opera on the Avalon, Parks NL, the Mary Brown Center, the Rogues Basketball, the Provincial Historic Sites, and more. So we brought it up at committee yesterday, our committee. And this is something that we'll bring back to council at our upcoming meeting. But just to highlight, I think it'd be worthwhile in terms of breaking down barriers for people and exposure to all these wonderful cultural and sporting events. So again, it's for Thursday, March 9th at 12:30, and the link and all that is in the email that we received. Also, the last item for me is, of course, International Women's Day. I just want to say what a great pleasure it is to work with all the women in this room. You all play a significant role to the running of these cities, and our operations. Your perspective is valued and appreciated. And the older I get and the longer I serve in this position, we just had a meeting today with some people from the CNIB. And the more we have opportunities or where we expand our awareness to the paths that others follow from their learned experience or from the experience that they're living, it only leads to better decision-making, and it leads to a better society. So right from the helm at Madam CEO, to our director, to Ms. Mullins over here, to Ms. Pratt, to my council colleagues, I'm going to call you by your first name. I will. Nicole, Isabel, and Chelsea. It truly is a pleasure, and you guys bring such a depth of insight and knowledge. So I just want to say how much I do appreciate all that you do for our city, and that you do for me personally, because you make me a better person by sharing the room with you. But I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge other important women in my life, and that, of course, is my mother, who ran our household. She raised 6 kids. She didn't work outside the home, but I always contended she worked harder than my dad. I love her dearly. Of course, my mother-in-law, she raised 3 beautiful daughters. And of course, my beautiful wife. I have 2 beautiful sons. She does so much for me and for the entire family. So I just want to throw out there as well that I don't have biological daughters, but I have 2 beautiful daughters as well, Nicole and Amy, and they too are such wonderful additions to our family. So to all the women in my life and in our communities, I wish you a sincere, happy International Women's Day tomorrow. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, sir. On to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much for those comments. And I think so far everybody's been talking about International Women's Day in a wonderful way from their heart. And there is such strength in vulnerability of connecting something like gender equity to our own lives and experiences and our feelings. And so it's wonderful to hear so far, all of the comments. It's definitely heard and felt by myself. I just wanted to have a few moments. This is one of the holidays that I personally relate to. It has been a professional and a personal celebration in my life since I've been doing and living feminist work. But I just wanted to talk about the theme this year, which is embracing equity. And I love the word embrace. When you define embrace, I mean, physically what that means is that you regard something, you hold something. And I think there's something really important about embracing equity, because that means you're not just looking at it or seeing it as an other, but you're taking it within yourself, identifying parts of it within you, your responsibility, and really holding and being accountable to that. You're ultimately seeing yourself in that. And I can say our colleagues around me, surround me, have been doing that in spades. And it's also an act of enthusiastically and willingly taking it upon yourself to embracing those things. So I just wanted to thank all of my colleagues over this past year that saw gender equity as not only an important issue for women, but seeing it in a beautiful quote you had said, Counselor Fry, which was the betterment of everyone, that it makes better communities, it makes better cities, it makes better policy by understanding by embracing this. And I just want to talk about this year and some of the incredible things that we could talk about that are important. We brought down progressive parental leave. We advocated and just moved forward a code of conduct. We engaged municipalities in Newfoundland with the outcome to offer more of a role of a gender-based analysis. We had an ally workshop where 100% of our male colleagues attended, worked and engaged on that. We have a diversity and inclusion working group that is about to expand to include community and those with experience in an intersectional lens of gender, which is so important. We support home-based businesses, and we're like, well, what does that have to do with gender? Predominantly, a lot of that is younger women and new business owners that otherwise would not be able to get into economic development. It's the seed start. And I think a lot of that has to do with representation around this city and this table. We have a lot way to go when we talk about intersectionality. I think it would be wonderful after my time here to see not only more gender equity, but intersectional and diversity and inclusion within this table, because it's certainly, for me, my experience here has made for such incredible feats that's making our city better. And to anyone that's wondering why International Women's Day, why do we still do that? It's just looking around these pictures and recognizing even it was not till 1985 that we had our first counselor, Julie Bettany, sit at the table. And I'm sure, and I can say without a doubt, moved this city in a way that otherwise would not have happened. New policies come with diversity. So it's incredible. It's fair to say we have of our even mayors, we've had one. That's a feat. That's Julie. And there's so many women and individuals that are allies that are supporting this. But if you're wondering why, because we have to continually move forward with gender equity, continually make this place better for our community. And so I'm sure people in 1985 were asking why gender. And I'm sure in 1955, when we were incorporated, we were asking why gender. And I'm happy to be part of that conversation today. So that's all I have to say. And thank you so much for everyone who contributed to all of successes and work that we've done this year to embrace equity.
Well said, indeed. Yeah, very much so. Counselor Antle.
That's not fair. I have to follow the call. Well said. Everything I said was going to say, you just took it away. Yeah, I've been so lucky, and we've been also blessed to work with so many strong women here in the city of Mount Pearl. And as Deputy, as Councillor Locke said, you know, a lot of strong women in their lives. It's such a fortunate way that we here in the city of Mount Pearl, you know, there's so much gender equity within the city of Mount Pearl, I think. We're such a, you know, and we just, myself and Councillor Locke, Councillor Rice and the mayor just did male allyship down with MNL. And it's eye-opening when we did that course to start looking at things through a different lens. And we're so grateful that we could do that. All right. So happy International Day, and I won't get into any more because you did so well. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you so much, Councillor Rice.
Well, I guess I'd be the odd person out if I didn't speak on International Women's Day. So here we go. I had a few notes on it anyway as well. And I too just want to say, looking around the room, I want to say, I certainly support all the women in the positions of management, leadership, and my colleagues on council as well. I mean, I just want to say, and Councillor Locke mentioned it briefly, and Councillor Antle just mentioned about, we had four of us, 4 men on council of the city of Mount Pearl attended the male allyship on the 25th, 2 Saturdays ago, on 25th of February. And so 50% of the people that were there were from Mount Pearl, 50% of the males. It was a phenomenal opportunity to get together and brainstorm, and I think most of us were well aware of some of the challenges, I guess, that women have in society these days. So there's a couple of comments I had here on. I just Googled it, and I want to just mention about, not everybody around the world gets an opportunity to be treated like women, around the table here and the city of Mount Pearl. And I feel privileged and honored, I guess, to be able to look at my colleagues as equal partners and colleagues in the city. And same thing, I look around the table when I get our management team and our management support, and even the leadership, some of the people that are from the staff side. It's really important. And if you look around the world, in different countries around the world, I mean, women are treated so poorly around the world. If you look at different countries around the world, and for them to just to speak up on international, I guess, when you get an International Women's Day 2023, the animosity and the conflict that's caused in some of these countries by women trying to speak up. And we all know, that women have spoken up in the past, and they got shown and and even killed for the comments that they made. And I'm on the same page as as Councillor Locke. My mother was a really strong person. I look up to her, and I still do. I have 2 sisters, no brothers. And I have my beautiful wife, Carolyn, and my 3 daughters. So I raised 3 daughters, Sydney, Victoria, Mackenzie. So support from the female side was just natural to me. And I wouldn't dare go outside the box because, they put me in line pretty quick, and I respected that. So I just want to say, a big congratulations on your day tomorrow, and we certainly support you girls and women in society, and having equal representation is really important around the table. So congratulations to all of you, everyone of you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, tomorrow is a celebration, but it's also a reflection for women, for gender. But I think, Deputy Mayor, you talked about the theme, and the theme is gender equity. I'm going to take a little bit more of a contextual commentary and look at our community, and know that we have to strive to include everybody in all of our interactions, in our policymaking, our operational decisions. And I would trust, CEO Spurl, you will pass this on to our employees tomorrow, primarily from you and your executive team here, that gender equity is really, really important. But I just want to look around the room, and I see community leaders, both policy and operational, and say it's proud to work with you all, including the men as well as the women. We work well together. We bring diverse opinions. And I think, to some of your commentary, our strength is we have that diversity, and our strength has evolved so that we have a lot more voices around the table. I don't know how you change the history, but looking up here at just one mayor of this city has been female. You're kind of shaking your head, but it's history you can't change. But I think going forward, in my 13 years on council, I've seen council evolved. There are more women on council than there were in the past. I'm proud to be surrounded by female leaders. But because we're all working towards gender equity, I'm proud to be surrounded by the male leaders too, that offer their allyship and their leadership moving the city forward. So on behalf of all of us, I'd like to say thank you. And I want to make sure, CEO Spurl, that we pass that on to our staff as well. I think that's really important. It's all about culture and reinforcing where we are and perhaps where we need to go. There was one item that was asked, Director Pittman, while you were out. It was, a home-based business in terms of taxation. Does it pay, if I can paraphrase Councillor Antle, as much? I think the way it's calculated is different. Can you enlighten us for something we saw there today, which I would call a small music school?
Yeah, small-based businesses are $400. So they basically follow the minimum tax rule. So they would fall under the same, I guess, categorization, whether it's like general, commercial, et cetera, but there's a minimum $400 spend for home-based businesses, and there's no separate like commercial water or utility billing, because obviously you're paying that in your residential billing. So we're not double dipping on that taxation. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you very much. And on this note, I'm about to call for adjournment, but I do want to thank the deputy mayor and Councillor Lane for lozenges earlier on. I can't blame it on the new microphones, but I just totally lost my voice at a moment when I'm supposed to be doing, I guess, with proclamations and that most of the speaking. So thank you very much. A very kind gesture. And on that note, to be kind to everybody, let's adjourn the meeting on a motion. Councillor Rice, seconded by Councillor Frost.